Hey everyone, thank you for listening to the Oasis podcast again. I really am beyond grateful and thankful for those of you who have been rocking with me, who have been listening. Listenership is up. People have been following the page, and I just wanted to extend some just thank yous. I'm so grateful and also super grateful. By the time this episode is released, I would have hosted the third Sip and Chat Black Love Kickback with Reforum Consulting, and that turnout was amazing. And us as Black folk, we are some beautiful ass people. Y'all showed up, y'all showed out, y'all dropped gems, y'all showed love, y'all brought all that magic to that space, and I'm beyond grateful and thankful for everyone who participated in turning a virtual space of practical strangers into just real ass friendships now. And I'm so happy that I was able to host it. AJO Consulting was able to bring it all together along with Reforum Consulting. And those of you who missed that event, make sure not to miss the next one. Enjoy the episode. Hello. Welcome back to the Oasis podcast. Thank you all for joining us again. Today, I have our, I would say our resident guest on the podcast, Miss Keesh.
Hi.
And Vision.
Yeah. What's good, everybody?
I hope y'all are all just being safe and healthy and keeping Rona out your lives. She's trying to be in everybody's life. So how y'all doing? How y'all been?
I've been good. Just finishing out the semester and just, quarantine just taught us so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you've actually, I think, probably one of the few people who quarantine was like, thank you, quarantine. Like
it was a
because you were busy, like you were all over the place. So yeah, like it was able to, okay, I can sit my ass at home and do this. Okay, then let's go, so How about you, Vision?
I'm all right for the most part. It's been an interesting quarantine, wins and losses, but a lot more wins than anything, so I'm doing all right. I'm trying out here. I'm trying.
That's definitely a positive mindset to have. How am I?
Yeah.
I have been busy, which is good, professionally and I guess personally, but kind of professionally also bleeds into the personal, because with the podcast I've been really making some moves, which is exciting. I can't complain. I've had everything that I've needed and wanted, so I really can't complain at this point. So today we're going to be discussing, we're going to be having Truth Hour today. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about what's hard about dating you, right? And so this topic came literally from Miss Keesh. I saw her post this on the status, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this one," right? And it really was
You're welcome.
A question that I utilized. I was like, it really made me think. I really saw it, and I was like, "Ooh, I should really think about this." Even though I have thought about it before, but at this point in the game, kind of doing a re-eval was definitely necessary. So I feel like before we even jump into that, how honest do you think people can be about their shit? How honest have you found people are about their own shit? Like, what makes them just not desirable, or makes them not dateable or whatever?
I think people are pretty honest with their flaws of dating, and their flaws about themselves. But I don't think they're open to it, like, until someone really tell them about that. So, like, for instance, I could tell someone, like, there's certain aspects about you that I do not like, and it could ring something inside of them for them to either change or either cut you off completely. Mm-hmm. So I've been on the receiving end of cutting off. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it's bad to be cut off, but I'm happy that they done that, because it allowed them to have any introspection for themselves so they could be better prepared for someone else. So, I mean, it goes different ways.
It definitely can go different ways. I think it's different. People receive it differently if it's external, though. If someone is telling them, as opposed to them coming to terms with it on their own. But I was having a conversation with the host of For the Love podcast. Y'all check that out, right? Mr. Mel. But the conversation kind of was talking about the fact that, you know, people out here, they dating, and so many people are quote unquote single, right? People are single, and they why is it that so many people are single, yet all these people feel like, all these people think that they're amazing, right? So
Nothing's wrong with
why
them.
is it so difficult, right? Why is it so why are you single then, and why is it so difficult to be in a relationship, right? If all these amazing people are single, then all these amazing people should be connecting with all these amazing single people, right? And having amazing relationships. But that's not the freaking case. So I think that, I don't know, I don't feel people are honest about this shit. I think there's a certain level of consciousness that people have in order to sit down and be like, ooh, you might be the toxic one. You know what I mean? Like, you might be the fucked up one. And I don't think a lot of people
it hits the
step
chord
out of
with
that
them.
space of like, ooh, people are doing things to me, as opposed to, you know, I really did this to that person, or that I attributed to what happened here in this situation. What do you think, Vision?
I was just taking back what you guys said. I tend to lean more along the lines as AJ. But I think it's because a lot of us aren't aware of how severe things are. So it's kind of hard to be honest about it when you don't know it's that bad. At least from my interactions with myself and just with other folks, it's just like, we all know who we are, but we all don't know how bad we are. You know, it's very easy to point out how good you are, you know, but it's tough to point out how bad you are.
It takes a lot of self-reflection. It's like, if you sit back and you replay the situation and you kind of realize, oh, you know, I did fuck up at this point. You know, it allows you to grow and say, okay, you know what? Next on, if I'm in this type of situation again, I'll be able to navigate it differently. But
Super
you know,
facts.
sometimes when someone tell us about ourselves, it will ring a chord for us to be like, okay, you don't need to be that close to me to tell me about me. I'm responsible of me. But then we're so easy to be like, well, this is about you. This is what you're doing. This is what I don't like. You're bad about this and you're bad about that. But I think we have to be mature and vulnerable enough for us to take consideration about ourselves that we may not like and just kind of work on it. It's not necessarily telling us to remove it right away, but just be like, okay, I could navigate it a little differently if I'm placed in this situation again.
Yeah, I agree.
Those are facts. Definitely facts.
So who wants to get on the chopping block first? What's hard about dating you?
Miss Keisha's already the MVP early on, so we should just let her continue.
His face is like, no,
See, I can't even see.
All right, well, you know, since I
want you just saw her face. She's like, no.
You know, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. What's hard about me? What's hard about dating me? I could be distant. If I am not receiving some level of regard or some type of emotional response and affection, I will feel like you're not interested, and I will distance myself from caring about you until you disappear. It's not mature, but I think that is how I navigate relationships, which I know I have to navigate it in a different way, where it's more a line of, hey, this is what I expect in a person who I'm interested in, and you should be able to give that. If not, then maybe we should navigate it on being friends than potential.
So let's do it like this. Let's list off the bad shit. Let's just list off Just like we're gonna list
Okay.
it off, and then we'll break it down a little bit later, the whys. But right now we're gonna call ourselves out. Just call yourself out.
Yeah. I could be distant. I could be I wouldn't say not caring, not unemotional. I could be stubborn. I could be defensive. I can be combative at times. I could be uh, mainly distant. Distant.
That would be the main complaint, you think?
That would be the main complaint. Distant, unattached. If I don't feel attached to you, whatever. Um, I could be mean. I can be mean. Yeah, I could be. I could be very mean. Yeah, I could be mean. I think I could be sarcastic. I could be overbearing. I could be a little naggy if needed to be.
And that's still it's needed, not necessarily the other person.
If I really like you, then I could be clingy and expect to hear from you. I wouldn't say it's a little dicey. Reciprocal. So if you express something about me, I wouldn't express back to you, only because I'm holding myself. And I don't like to be vulnerable, so you will never know. That's
a big one. A lot of people don't know how to be vulnerable. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a deep list.
I
my top three.
I gotta read off mine.
My top three is that one, I'm distant, but it's a different kind of distance. Like I'll tell you everything except all the stuff that I need to be telling you. Like, that's one of my things. I'm horrible at that. The other one is I'm definitely a narcissist. You know, everything got to be about me. It ain't nothing about me, but it's still about me. So that's one. That's the second one, and the last one is I'm such an anxious person, bro. My anxiety is like the downfall of everything in my life. So those are the top three. Along with like I think everybody has a bit of selfishness. I think another one is I play dumb. I do it a lot, and sometimes I gotta catch myself. Like, you already know this. Like, why are you acting like you don't know? And I know it gets annoying because everybody has to repeat themselves to me, even if I know it. It's just like, huh? Say it again. Repeat it. Oh no, I don't remember that. Like, I remember it when I want to remember it though. So yeah, I think those are the top 5 in regards to what makes it hard to date me.
Oh, okay. Your list was shorter.
I mean, I narrowed it down because I could have, you know, can y'all hear me? Yeah, I've been hearing so much about myself lately. I have to, like, I had such a long list that I had to like pick like the top 5 and really think like, was it true or not?
I'm like, well, damn, everybody. The what? I've been there. I get it. I definitely been there for real. That was it for you? You good? You want to add anything else? No? Vision?
Nah, you got it.
Okay. Oh, child. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for mine? Okay.
Yeah.
I can be headstrong. And that y'all can take that how y'all want it. My assertions can come off and seem aggressive. So I can come off aggressive when I'm asserting myself. Can come off like I don't care, similar to you, Keesh. Like, I'll be real nonchalant about shit sometimes, and like I'm just—
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Not emotional at all, it might seem. I'm super independent, and I think that it's hard about loving me. Like, yeah, we're not to that point of explaining it yet, but I think I'm super independent. I'm I stay in my head a lot because I'm very introspective, but I don't think it comes off how it should at times. I'm maybe a little bit too blunt, just a little bit. Why are you making that face? She's just like, oh, a little? You think so? Okay. I won't change myself for the sake of anyone else's comfortability. And that, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But my thinking can sometimes be very black or white and not enough gray. I care until I don't. And that could be a very, like a, kind of like a guillotine, what is it called? A guillotine kind of coming down. It comes very swift. Like I care. And then it's like for certain people in certain situations. So that can be really abrupt. I can be serious as fuck. Like I can be real serious about things in life. And I think for some people, it's hard to absorb that when they're just not in that space. I can come off maternal, which I don't like at all, but it is what it is. It's my spirit. And then I could come off selfish. I'll say that. Yeah. I can come off selfish. The things I say and do might come off very selfish. Yeah. Ain't nobody got, y'all ain't got nothing to say. Y'all just nodding y'all heads. Y'all just not.
No, I some of the words that you express about yourself is some of the words I couldn't find to say. Definitely the nonchalant, the blunt, the maternal even. I do agree. And when we get to that part where we have to explain like the top aspects, then I can go more in depth. But for now, like I agree, not for you, but like I agree in a sense for me.
So, all right. So we did the hard part, or we started the hard shit, right? And of course,
we still got more.
There's more, of course. But we all got here probably because, or mainly because, right? Somebody had to tell us about ourselves too. It wasn't all like, oh, I sat down, I had a yogi moment, and I was enlightened. It was probably from relationships that we had, and relationships meaning the whole spectrum, not just boyfriend, girlfriend, partner relationships, right? But it could be any relationship, right? And that people told us about ourselves, and hopefully, well, I'm hoping, it sounds like we got to the point where it was like, oh shit, we probably should listen to this. So my question to you though is, I was listening to, I feel it was another podcast, or maybe I was reading something, and it was talking about evaluating your values, right? And how a lot of times, it was the Amanda Seals. I was listening to Small Doses, and she was saying how, which I thought was really interesting, was that a lot of times our actions are directly linked to our value system or our values, right? And a lot of times we want people to change the behavior, when in actuality, it's the value that needs to be changed or restructured or reanalyzed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
It was a unique perspective for me listening to it. And I said, oh shit, like that makes real sense. And for me, and so it made me start thinking about, because we had already talked about doing this episode. And so then I started thinking about, okay, the things that are hard about dating me, they are difficult, but they're even more so difficult, I think, for the other individual, and especially for myself to adjust, because they're directly related to my values, the things that I hold true to myself in my life. And so when I come off headstrong, when I come off real blunt, when I come off, it's because they're directly linked to trust, right? Like, so in order for me to feel trust is very important for me. In order for me to trust, I need to feel like I could be transparent. I want that person to be transparent. So I'm going to be bold and blunt. Like, yo, this is how I feel. This is what it is. And so when someone's like, oh, you too blunt, or you too this, oh, you need to tone it down. In my head, I'm like, but then that wouldn't make me, trustworthy. That wouldn't make me, if that makes sense. That's not the exact value, but I was just giving that an example. Like, that's how, where my brain goes, right? Like, I like stability. And so being flaky or just up and down all over the place, that doesn't tie to my value of stability. Like, I need stability. I need consistency, right? And so it's difficult to adjust the behavior because of the value that it's connected to. So I'm asking you all, like, do you think, have you thought about that? And in thinking about it now, do you think that the difficulties that people have with you, with these behaviors, are linked to your values? Yes or no? And if not, just kind of like explain that.
I think yes, because like for you, like for the example that you said about stability and trust, I want to be able to have stability and trust, but I am not allowing myself to be vulnerable to receive that. So it's in a conflict. I like to, I wouldn't say dissect people, but I like to dissect and insect people. Like, I try to get into your mind, your thought processes, what made you this way, what would you change. I would ask like the most deepest part questions about you, and I will give you the vaguest part of me. Only because I want to see if I could continue, or I could see some aspect of you that kind of, something with the assumption of like, maybe you're not going to stick around for me. So I want you to prove it without me trying to
having to invest.
Push you. Exactly. So I can understand that. I mean, it's my value system is always the contradictory side. I could say I want stability, but then I can meet a person who gives me inconsistency, and I still try to find reasons to keep them around. And I think I have to work, and I had this conversation earlier this morning. I have to work on that part, because how can I want this stable, this loving and trusting love if I'm willing to tolerate the bullshit that people give me of the inconsistency, the lack of trust, and a not reciprocal love. And then sometimes you have to think about it, is it me that, do I feel like I'm worthy enough to receive this type of love? Do I feel like I could give this type of love? And if the answer is no, then there's more introspective needed to happen, regardless of what do you want? Because I know all of us want that loving and supportive soulmate, but can we be a loving, supportive soulmate to them as to ourselves?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
You brought up really great points, but just your last point about being what you're looking for, right? Like my favorite line from Life Jennings: "Don't be a nickel out here looking for a dime," right? You should be what you're looking for. But you also brought up another point about that before you go, Vision, but about being inconsistent or contradictory in regards to our behaviors and our values. And this is why we're manifesting what we're manifesting in our lives, period. Right? So you want stability, but you keep going after people who are all over the motherfucking place, right? Or if you yourself do value stability, but you yourself are doing things to make your life unstable, right? And so being able to look at that, analyze that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So Vision, what about you? How do you feel that, and do you think that your values are associated or linked to the things that are difficult about dating you?
No, I don't agree or believe that, particularly for me. I would say I tend to have very similar, if not the same values. I'm realizing about just with my past relationships. The problem is knowing myself enough to know my ability. So what I am able to work on, what am I willing to work on? Am I capable of working on it at this moment? I think I do an amazing job at pretending that I'm ready. And I find people that have the same values as me. And then I realize they don't work out, not because we couldn't be on the same page, but more so that I wouldn't be on the same page with them. So it's not necessarily my values. I think it's more so
The behaviors.
no, because I don't. It's not a behavior. I think sometimes with people, we just aren't ready, and sometimes you have to be ready in order for things to manifest correctly.
Yeah.
And I realized, like I have the same morals. Like we'll be on the same page in the beginning of what we want, and then I'm like, yo, like then it's like, oh, was you ready for that? Was you ready for this? Were you prepared for this? Are you willing to do this? And just understanding my own limitations. I think more so that's what it is for me than our values.
Okay, I get it. So, kind of still tying, I guess, into values, but what's hard about you and readiness too, right? How much do you think how you were raised influences that?
For me, it's everything. To be honest with you, and not just. I mean, when you're saying raised, I hope you don't mean just like strictly parental, like just life experience. Period. Cool. So life experience. Period has everything to do with my fight or flight, or my fear of actually manifesting what's supposed to happen. I'm a dreamer, so like I know what it is. I'm not dumb. I know what it is. I just, I have trauma that just wasn't dealt with correctly or wasn't dealt with at all, which has me playing. When you're playing double dutch and you get ready to jump in, but you don't want to get smacked by the rope, so you're doing that little jump. Like that's me. That rope is always past trauma, and my fear is just up. Like one rope, I'm gonna get smacked with. That's the past trauma, and then the next one is I kind of live in that uncertainty of that I'm comfortable in that realm. So it's like do I want to get smacked by any of these ropes, or do I just want to continue to be comfortable?
I love that analogy. Actually, you're absolutely right with that. And the thing with double dutch, but talking about it in the way you were talking about it, about the trauma, the rope, one rope being trauma, and the other rope, I forget what you said the other rope was. I can't remember. My brain is just that shot. Sorry, I'm hungry. But it could be whatever, I guess you choose it to be. But the thing about double dutch is that when you are afraid that you're gonna get hit by the rope, right? Depending on how heavy that damn cord was, because back in the day, you know what I'm saying?
Especially in the hood, you got the cable wires.
But the thing with that is pretty much the more you are willing to jump in, the less afraid you are of the rope, right?
Yeah, I know that now.
Perfect. Yeah, you know that now, of course. But you don't know that when you're learning how to jump double dutch, right? You don't know.
Well,
so you
want to know something though?
Do it. So that's a perfect analogy.
You want to know something though? I kind of disagree with that because we know, like, we know what it is. When we make that decision to jump in a relationship, we know.
I disagree.
I don't know. I think,
like for me personally, I think
people know. Not everyone thinks. No, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna use your analogy. So for me personally, I think one rope represents the readiness and the other rope represents the trauma. So as we getting ready to jump into the rope, we are so willing to be ready to jump over that readiness rope, but sometimes we trip ourselves up because we come to the overthinking part. But then when it comes to the trauma, sometimes we're willing to skip over the trauma because we are ready. Like some people, I don't know, some people are aware of the trauma, or they're aware of fixing that trauma. No. So I think like with the jumping rope, it's like sometimes we just kind of go with the flow and see if we could jump over each rope to make sure that we are ready to like address it while we're in a relationship, while we are ready to address it while we're not in a relationship. So
why I disagree with that vision in regards to people know when getting into relationships is the main reason why I disagree is the fact that people get people get into relationships without consciously thinking about getting into relationships, if that makes sense. Like,
Fair enough.
people will sit here and, oh, you cool. Next thing you know, 5 years later, no one made a conscious decision, oh, you my boyfriend, you my girl, or you my whatever, you my partner. But then they got into a relationship. And so therefore, there was no conscious thought process of, hey, am I ready for this type of commitment? What are things I need to think? Like,
That's true.
and
That's
I hear that
very
so across the board. I hear that so like very often, and to me, it always boggles my mind. But at the same time, I also understand it because when I was super young, those things kind of happened, right? But as we get older, and you're hearing people still say that, that's when it's kind of like, whoa, what? But I heard a lot of people say that, like, oh yeah, I was just talking to old girl, and then we were together, you know. And then it's like,
that's what happened with my last situation. It was just like, oh, she was there and we just talked, and it's just like, but I was your friend. And I think that's what people are missing, is the friend aspect. And I always tell people, I'd rather be a friend, and maybe that's where the dissecting and the intersecting is that I'd rather see you as a friend and try to figure out your morals, your expectations, even your aspirations about yourself before I'm ready to pursue something more differently. That if we do flirt and it's reciprocal, yes, we could talk about what's our ideal of a relationship, but I gotta have you still as a form of a friend where we kind of navigate and hang out a little bit before we go straight into that friendship. And I think the aspect of courting is so missing these days. It's like everybody is so willing to jump the rope and be in a relationship and not addressing their trauma, addressing the bad about themselves, instead of waiting to be like, all right, you know what, I'm willing to skip this turn. Let me just continue on the path that I am of self-reflection and awareness before I'm ready to say, oh, it's my turn to jump in this rope.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I think a lot of people jump into things and see what we're doing now, right? This is all in retrospect. Oh, this is what's hard about dating me. But it took us time to get here. And I don't think a lot of people think about it first before they get into relationships, right? And how how often, I mean, I think it might be done, but probably really superficially, but like, oh, what would your ex say about you if I asked them? You know, like if you're dating somebody, they might ask you that, or, oh, why are you single? They might ask that question, but it comes off a lot more judgy as opposed to like, oh, I really want to know, like, what are some things that might be difficult about you? But I think,
oh, I say the truth.
No, I do too, but people don't listen. But the fact is just like how different the outcome would be if we really wholeheartedly, one, took the time after we have a breakup to be like, damn, where did this shit fuck up? And not blame the other person, but go, where did it fuck up? Meaning, where did we both took part in, and then where did I take part in, right? And then moving forward, being real honest when we're trying to get into something else. But we're making a conscious decision to go into another relationship going, hey, this is what's hard about dating me. This is where the difficulty lies. And so this is what it is. You cool with it? Are you willing to work with it? And not to say, oh, I'm going to take all your faults and I'm just going to be 100% happy with it. But if it's something you're able to deal with, right? So I think the outcomes would be very different if we actually took the time to do that. So you wanted to say something, Vision?
Oh, no. I was just shaking my head agreeing.
I guess here's another question. Again, listen to another podcast because that's all I do now because I just got so much time. I was listening to another podcast. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me right now. But they were talking about how watching their parents in relationships or parents' relationships influence them, and how they date and what they're looking for, right? But I'm gonna broaden the question to be more so of like incorporating that, but also relationships in general, maybe siblings, other family members, people that you look up to, admire, whatever. How do you think looking at the relationships around you, so it's a two-part question, influenced, of course, you're in relationships, but influence your stance or influence the things about you that's also hard about dating you?
So in general, for me, it's a the influence is period. And because of that influence is there, it affects all of my relationships. So um more so on the anxiety part and dealing with anxiety, personal anxiety while navigating in a relationship or just the relationship anxiety. Um Not so much for the narcissism part and not so much for me being distant. I think those are just things I've behavior I learned from being in other relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But more so on the anxiety part, how I deal with confrontation, how I um how I internalize information, what's a threat, what's not a threat, what makes this perceived as a threat. Just along those lines, then yeah, definitely my relationships with watching my parents definitely guided that in that realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, and that was again after I gave some thought to it after we decided to do this. This is when I listened to these podcasts, and I was like, "Ooh, all these things I feel were connected." Um, it's we are influenced, of course, by our environment, people around us, for sure, right? And
Hmm.
thinking about they influence us positively and negatively. Um, but some of the things we hold as value, though, maybe in that person, we hold value maybe
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
in the dynamics that we have when it shows its face in relationships, that causes the demise of the relationships, you know what I'm saying? And so then we're kind of like, yo, what the heck, like what the fuck is going on? Right? And I definitely agree. It's like looking at or thinking about, let's say my mom, for example, where growing up she always stressed, yo, you got to be strong, you can't rely on nobody, right? You always got to make sure you got your own. That's a value that helped her get through life that I saw, and I saw her strength, right? But when you try to apply that in relationships, it don't work out really good. It don't work out good, right? Like, because then it ends up causing trust issues. It's like, oh, I can't rely on you because you ain't gonna be here, right? I need to make sure I do this on my own. And then of course when you're in relationships, both people want to feel wanted and needed. And so
Yeah.
you're in that mindset of, oh, I can't rely on you. That person's not gonna feel wanted or needed, right? But
Just even on
Yeah.
the flip side, though, right? It both ways, though, because I mean, my mom didn't have the greatest relationship with my brothers. So growing up, my mom tried to force me and my brothers to have a
mm,
relationship. So I had that concept of everything is communal, news is communal, like everything is communal. Even with my friends, we all come from that environment where our parents stressed us that we were all we got. Um,
mm,
so then me applying myself in a relationship and putting that mentality into it, it makes it seem like I'm depending on somebody. It's like, no, I'm not necessarily depending on you, but I come from that environment where you hold the people to you. You're supposed to hold the people close to you close, and you, I guess, lean on each other. But I could still do this without you, so it could get misconstrued either way in a relationship.
of course, absolutely. And even like when I talked about the another thing that I think is hard about loving me, um, and it's like, okay, again, being very like being blunt, right, or being extreme, like too strong. Again, those are things that I saw. Those are things that I saw my mom do. She got through life, but or my family being really blunt, right, with each other. But these are not things that are received well outside of our family circle, right, or
Mm-hmm.
outside of um, the people
Mm-hmm.
that really know you, are really close to you, and so that can really translate really bad. And I have an example, so which is to me, I thought it was funny and really like, bruh, what? But in hindsight, when outside a relationship or when I took a step back to really look at it, I said, oh, okay, I understand, right? Because there are cultural differences and things that too do apply, but this is an example. In my family, I'm Haitian, y'all, so y'all know how that goes. We talk loud, we talk like we yelling at each other, we fighting, but we're not. We're good, right? Um, and we can be, in my family particularly, we're very blunt with each other. And then there's certain things that's cultural, right? So we might talk to each other, and while we talking to each other, we sucking our teeth, right? Oh, and we start talking and this and this and this. In a past relationship, in while we're having a not heat, it's not an argument. Well, it turned into argument, but I'm gonna explain why. But in having a discussion, in the discussion, people are passionate, we're talking, going back and forth, and I go, or do something like that, right? The person on the receiving end took it as I was being disrespectful, took it as I didn't regard what they were saying, and I was disregarding it, right? Now, Of course, there's cultural implications and all these other things there. But me being that expressive in the conversation is something that I learned, right? That's something that I also value because I'm able to like use my body to express what I need to say, right? I don't like being censored. I don't like being put in a box where I have to be, whatever. And so it turned the discussion into a whole ass argument. That right there, in the moment, I was like, yo, this is dumb. Like, why you letting this shit get... So, of course, in the moment, I'm hot. I'm like, whatever, boom, boom. And it took me a while to receive the message. But then when I got out of the relationship and I really thought about it and processed, I said, and I was able to see, wow, you know what? And was able to explain to the person culturally, but it didn't take away from the fact that this still was something that caused them to feel whatever they felt, right? But I was able to step back and go, this is something that's valued in my family. This is something that's valued culturally. However, it's not translating the same in this relationship, in this dynamic. And I have to be cognizant of that. And this can go across many different lines and different things. But that was the one thing that made me start analyzing and thinking about not only cultural differences, but what are things that I value in how I was reared, right? And how they translate to the things I want and also the things that I don't want. And so that, that's why I thought about that example. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I think we were raised to think is cool or even raised to think was not okay. Right. And so therefore when we present ourselves in relationships, or if a person presents in a relationship, we then start to go into this battle with each other, right?
No, I agree.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to finish.
I'm done.
But she was on a roll. She was on a roll preaching.
Right, she was. No, I agree. Like, so watching my parents is an unconventional type of relationship, and I value communication. But I learned that inconsistency I learned inconsistency basically. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, if something happened between my mom and dad, I wouldn't hear from my dad for like weeks or months or whatever. Mm. I thought that was normal. Mm. So inconsistency for me was normalized.
Got you. Yeah.
So I'm so used to the inconsistency that even as I say I want a stable, reciprocated love, that aspect of inconsistency is normalized for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always say, I haven't heard from him or, he hasn't hit me up. That's normal to me because I grew up in that. Mm-hmm. Is it right? No. And that's one thing I have taken away that I want in a relationship, that I truly value consistency and communication and openness. So I think those experiences growing up, because seeing that is like, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's totally wrong. Even attentiveness, like that's one of my flaws. I could be not attentive, but
But you brought up a good
as
point.
You grow, huh?
No, go ahead. You did bring up a good point, though.
No, yeah, but like you grow up with these things that is so normalized that it takes a while for you to unlearn it, and even when you unlearn it, you're still allowing it to happen because it's so normal for you that it doesn't have that same type of pain factor that you had in the beginning when it was happening to when it's happening now. So I'm very open and honest. I tell people how it is. And I guess like people started learning that aspect of me, like, oh, I've been laying low. If they say that, and I'm like, yeah, you've been laying real low. And they'll say, don't start. And it's like, no, I understand. I'm learning you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's for me to be able to take away is the learning factor of some people, because sometimes it's not even like they're not interested in you or they're they're not inconsistent. It's just that there's something that's going on with them that they can't really speak on, or they really want that solitude time. So I have to treat people as I want people to treat me if I'm going through certain things. Like I'd rather be by myself thinking than people to contact me. I have to treat people that way, but then I have to understand that's not normal, because we
Well,
are
you
at this
have
age
to,
where we have to have communication. We have to be honest and open, because we're touching the precipice of 40. We can't do what we
the
used to do
same
when we were
nonsense. It's
16.
true. So what I'm hearing you say is though is like two main things. It's like taking that time. So the first thing I heard is like a lot of times the things that we're doing, right? A lot of stuff that we're doing that can be considered hard about us are completely we're doing purposely because it's opposite of what we want to do. I mean, what we want, meaning this is what I saw, so I don't want to be that. I'm being this thing, right? And so now our behaviors, right, can be manifesting because we definitely don't want to be this thing. And people can see that as, oh, you really too steadfast in this shit. Like your feet are really grounded on these things, and I can't fucks with it, right? Because you're not being flexible. But what they don't understand is this is rooted because I saw this thing and I don't want to be that thing. I want to be something different. And then and then the other thing I heard you say is that it's difficult in unlearning, right? The stuff that we have normalized. So a lot of us carry a lot of shit with us that we have normalized, and then we don't realize it's a thing. We don't realize that it's not okay, quote, I'm putting quotations, until several people that you are trying to get to know intimately is like, whoa, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? And so then we don't realize it's a thing about us until, several people, I mean,
It's
you have one
exposed.
person that you really admire,
Really care for.
tells you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like exposure therapy. It's like we exposed to the same thing that we've been running away from for years, until it actually comes to our face and we be like, no, this is not it. This is not it. So sometimes we have to be like, okay, I've been rooted in this picture. It's time for me to get up and start walking towards something that I want to happen in my love life, that I want to happen in my life in general.
Vision.
Can I?
You want to say
Yeah,
something?
I want to ask. Yeah, Keesh brought up normalizing, and just to add on to that, um, there's some deep trauma within the Black community about normalizing, and when I say that, I mean normalizing gender roles and our expectations from our partners in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would keep it a G, like, Black men, we got a lot of trauma and shit. Um, and the concept that, like, I guess, there's that concept of a Black woman who's like, yo, I'll fix him up. I'll get him to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You break up with somebody and he was an asshole to you, but then the next person he's an angel for. And it's that concept that, you stick it through until it works out. I think Black men, we're used to that. We're used to that expectation that, Black women will deal with it until we figure it out
Mm-hmm.
and then move forward, and then we'll have a happily ever after. There's a big danger in normalizing
Another
in
topic.
general.
It's a whole nother podcast right there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm not on that one. You could keep that sister to sister.
That would be okay. Tuh. Nah, that's a word. That is an absolute word.
Y'all could keep that
Sure.
sister.
That is
You
a
should
word.
do that on the next podcast. Add this little sister theme song into that podcast next time you have a
Oh,
sister.
I don't know
You
if
should
there's
do
like
it.
copyright issues with that. I ain't even mess with it. I ain't even gonna mess with it. So, all right. What are some gems you want to leave the audience with? What are some things that, based off of this, being able to do this self-reflection and really hone in on what is hard about dating you, what do you think that listeners can take away with them about doing that?
Vision.
Damn. All right. So it's okay to be you, and it's okay to be who you are, and if that's the person you are, own it. It's just easier to own it. Um, and once you're able to own that, it's easier to find a person that you could deal with, that you could date, and have relationships with, because you know who you are and you know what you need in order to figure that out. So own who you are. Once you own who you are, the rest of it becomes easy.
I agree with that 100%.
I would say same alongside of vision. Be honest with yourself. Be transparent with yourself. Allow yourself to hurt yourself, because in that hurt you could grow, and you could be able to be a better person to someone else. But also kind of step back and ask yourself, what am I requiring? Can I also provide? Mm-hmm. And once you do that in your healing, everything will work out to its best ability, and you will attract what you deserve.
I agree with that. I agree both.
Big fact.
Y'all.
Big fact.
Now words out here. That's word. I think the one thing, since we've been talking, I've been wanting to say, but I'm hearing you guys kind of said it, but I guess I'll verbalize it for the listeners, is doing this activity is essential because we're putting these things to the forefront of our minds, right? The things that are hard about you. And it's okay. Ain't nobody perfect. So it's okay to point out your flaws. But I think what's even more important in pointing out the flaws is finding out the roots of them, right? Where did they come from? And I think being able to point out the roots, figuring out the roots, would also now bring you into another journey of identifying, is it something that you want to change about yourself, right? And then figuring out why is this thing here in the first place, right? And that also would then lead into what I think Vision says, and you can get to the point of, okay, you know what? I looked at where it came from. I think that this thing is beneficial for me, or it's not beneficial for me. But if it is beneficial for me, this is who I am. And being able to know who you are makes it that much easier to, one, get out of situations that are not for you, but hopefully get you in a situation that is.
Word.
All right.
That's a fact. Wait, we done?
Agreed.
That's it.
You
We
forgot to pay
an hour, fam.
You forgot to pay your Zoom bill or something? You only got the 40-minute max?
We've been here an hour. That's it. It's a wrap. We don't need to beat it over the head. For today's Connection Corner, I leave you with a post from Black Male Mental Health from Instagram that reads, "When we avoid difficult conversations, we trade short-term discomfort for long-term dysfunction." Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and like us on Instagram at the Oasis podcast. If you have any questions or comments, direct message us on Instagram or email us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. Again, that's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com.